Jack Miller worked as a mechanic on Space Station Echo 7, fixing broken ships and damaged engines. His days were usually the same: wake up early, eat breakfast in the mess hall, work for 8 hours, and then return to his small quarters. But 3 days ago something changed. It started at the market level, where vendors sold goods from across the galaxy. Jack was buying protein bars when he felt eyes on him. He turned and saw her for the first time. She stood near a fruit stand pretending to examine Earth apples. Her blue skin caught the artificial light, making her shimmer like water. Her eyes were twice the size of human eyes, and they glowed softly in the dim market lighting. Her silver hair moved on its own, floating around her head, as if she was underwater. Jack tried to ignore her and continued shopping, but everywhere he went in the market she followed. She stayed far enough away to seem casual, but close enough that Jack knew she was watching him. When he left the market and entered the elevator, she didn't follow. That night, Jack told himself he was being paranoid. The next morning, Jack arrived at the repair dock to find the same alien woman standing behind a stack of cargo containers. She wore the same flowing robe that seemed to change colors when she moved purple to blue to green like oil on water. Jack pretended not to notice her and started working on a damaged shuttle from Mars. His co-worker Bill worked beside him. Bill was talking about his family back on Earth, but Jack could barely focus. The alien woman had moved closer, now hiding behind a different container. Jack could see her glowing eyes peeking around the metal edge. "Hey Jack, are you listening?" Bill asked. "Sorry," Jack said, forcing himself to look away from the container. "What were you saying?" Bill shook his head and went back to work. Jack tried to concentrate on the shuttle engine, but his hands were shaking slightly. Who was this woman? And why was she following him? He had never seen her species before, though the space station got visitors from hundreds of different worlds. During his lunch break, Jack walked quickly to the security office. He wanted to report the stranger, but when he arrived, he stopped. What would he say? An alien woman was watching him work. That wasn't a crime on the station. Different species had different social customs. Maybe staring wasn't rude in her culture. Jack decided to test something instead of reporting her. He left the security office and took an unusual route back to the repair dock. He went up 2 levels, walked through the botanical garden, and came back down through the emergency stairs. Sure enough, when he returned to work, the alien woman was there again. This time she wasn't even hiding well. She stood partially visible behind a small shipping crate. That evening, Jack didn't go straight to his quarters. Instead, he went to the observation deck, where people could watch ships coming and going from the station. He sat on a bench and waited. After 10 minutes, she appeared. She entered the observation deck and sat on a bench far from him. She pulled out what looked like a book, but Jack could tell she wasn't reading. Her large eyes kept flicking toward him. Jack stood up and walked toward her. She tensed as he approached, her whole body going rigid. When he was 5 feet away, he stopped. "I know you have been following me," Jack said. The alien woman dropped her book, and it clattered on the metal floor. She made a sound like a whistle mixed with a hum, then touched something on her neck. "Please do not be afraid," she said in accented English, her voice sounding like wind chimes. "I mean no harm." "Who are you?" Jack asked. "What do you want?" She stood up slowly. She was taller than Jack, maybe 7 feet. Her thin arms hung at her sides. "I cannot explain here," she said. "Too many ears." Jack looked around. The observation deck had other people scattered around. Some were human, but most were other species. A group of Martian colonists chatted near the window, while 2 furry Altarians played a board game in the corner. Then where Jack asked, "Tomorrow," she said, "your quarters. After your work shift. I will explain everything." "That seems dangerous for me," Jack said. "How do I know you won't hurt me?" The woman tilted her head in what might have been confusion. "Humans are precious," she said. "We would never harm a human." Before Jack could ask what that meant, she walked past him and left the observation deck. Jack stood there, confused. Humans were precious. That was not something he heard often. Most alien species thought humans were weak and primitive compared to the rest of the galaxy. That night, Jack barely slept. He locked his door and pushed a chair against it. He kept thinking about her words. Humans are precious. What did that mean? His mind ran through possibilities. Maybe she was a scientist who wanted to study humans. Maybe she was a collector who wanted a human for some alien zoo. Maybe she needed his help with something. The next day at work, Jack was exhausted. Bill noticed and offered to get him coffee. Jack accepted gratefully. As he worked on rewiring a navigation system, he kept checking for the alien woman. She wasn't at the repair dock. Maybe she had given up. Maybe she had found another human to follow. When his shift ended, Jack walked slowly to his quarters. Part of him hoped she wouldn't be there. But as he turned the corner to his hallway, he saw her. She stood beside his door, still wearing that color-shifting robe. Her large eyes tracked his movement as he approached. "You came," Jack said. "I said I would." She replied, "I keep my promises." Jack typed in his door code but didn't open it yet. "If you try anything suspicious, I will call security." "I understand," she said. "I only wish to talk." Jack opened the door and let her enter. His quarters were small, just one room with a bed, a desk, a chair, and a tiny bathroom. The alien woman looked around with curiosity, as if she had never seen human living spaces before. "My name is Lyra," she said. Jack sat in his only chair while Lyra remained standing. Her height made the small room feel even smaller. She reached into her robe and Jack tensed, but she only pulled out a small device that projected a hologram into the air. "I am from the Zellarian system," she began. The hologram showed a star system with 3 planets circling a purple sun. "My home is the second planet Zellara." Jack had heard of Zellarians before, but they rarely left their system. They were known as peaceful traders who avoided conflict. "Why are you here?" Jack asked. "Why follow me?" Lyra waved her hand and the hologram changed. It now showed beautiful cities made of crystal with tall spires reaching toward purple skies. Zellarians walked through streets that seemed to glow. Buildings floated above the ground, connected by bridges of light. "This was my world," she said, her voice becoming sad. But then the hologram changed again. Jack gasped. The beautiful cities were still there, but now, Zellarians stood frozen in the streets like statues. Their bodies had turned to gray stone. Their faces were twisted in fear and pain. Some were reaching out as if asking for help. "That never came." "What happened?" Jack whispered. "A disease," Lyra said. "It started 50 cycles ago." "First one," Zellarian turned, "to stone, then 10, then thousands. Our healers tried everything, but nothing stopped it. The disease spreads through our air and water. Every Zellarian will eventually turn to stone." Jack felt sick looking at the images. "Why come to me? I am just a mechanic. I know nothing about alien diseases." Lyra changed the hologram again. This time it showed an elderly Zellarian female with kind eyes. "This was my grandmother, Kira," she said. 300 cycles ago, before the disease, she visited Earth. She was part of a diplomatic mission. The hologram showed Kira meeting with humans, shaking hands and sharing meals. She became friends with a human scientist named Lisa Carter. Lyra continued. "Before my grandmother left Earth, Lisa gave her a gift, a vial of her blood. Lisa said it was for scientific exchange between our species." Jack leaned forward in his chair. "What does this have to do with the disease?" "My grandmother brought the blood sample home," Lyra explained. "Our scientists studied it for years, just out of curiosity. Then when the disease started, they tested everything they could find. They discovered something amazing. Human blood contains antibodies that can destroy the disease. So you need my blood," Jack said, already rolling up his sleeve. "Take what you need." Lyra shook her head quickly. "No, you do not understand. We already synthesized the antibodies. We can make as much as we need. But there is a problem. The cure must be activated, and only a living human can do that." Jack rolled his sleeve. "Back down." "How does that work?" Lyra pulled out a crystal from her robe. It was clear like diamond and about the size of a baseball. "This is the activation stone," she said. Inside is enough synthesized cure for our entire planet, but it is dormant. Dead. Without activation, it is just a pretty rock. What kind of activation? Jack asked. The stone needs human life energy, Lyra said. Not blood, not DNA, but the actual energy that flows through living human cells. When a human touches the stone and focuses their mind on healing, the energy transfers and activates the cure. This sounds like magic, not science, Jack said. Your species is unique, Lyra explained. Humans have a type of cellular energy that no other species possesses. You call it many names, but we call it the eternal spark. It is why humans heal faster than they should, survive things that should kill them, and adapt to environments that should be impossible. Jack had heard stories about humans surviving against impossible odds, but he thought, they were just stories. Is it dangerous? Jack asked Will. It hurt me. Lyra moved closer and knelt down so she was at eye level with Jack. For any other species, yes, it would drain them completely, but humans regenerate this energy instantly. You would feel warm, maybe tired for a moment, but then you would be fine. It is one of the mysteries of your species. Why me? Jack asked. There are thousands of humans on this station. Lyra stood back up. Because I watched you. She said, I saw you fix ships for people who could not pay. I saw you share your food with hungry travelers. I saw you help a lost child find their parents even though the child was not human. Jack remembered that day. A small Centauri child had been crying in the market. Jack had spent 2 hours helping her find her family. I needed someone with a good heart. Lyra continued. The activation requires the human to truly want to help. If the human has doubt or fear or greed in their heart, it will not work. I watched many humans before I chose you. How many of your people are sick? Jack asked. 20 million. Lyra said, her large eyes filling with tears. And more every day. In one more cycle, it will be too late. The disease will have spread too far. Even with the cure, we will not be able to save them. Jack stood up and paced around his small room. 20 million lives depending on him touching a crystal. It seemed impossible, but the pain in Lyra's eyes was real. Prove it, Jack said. Show me this is real, and not some trick. Lyra reached into her robe again and pulled out a communication device. She pressed buttons and a new hologram appeared. This time it showed live footage from Zalara. Jack could see medical centers full of stone victims. He could see healers working desperately to slow the disease. He could see families crying over frozen loved ones. The timestamp on the footage showed it was from yesterday. This was happening right now. I will pay you anything. Lyra said suddenly. Our planet has resources. You could be rich, beyond imagination. Jack held up his hand to stop her. No payment, he said. If this is real, I will help for free. Lyra's eyes widened with surprise. Most species would demand payment. Maybe, Jack said. But humans are different. We help because it is right, not because it pays well. Lyra made the whistling humming sound again, which Jack was starting to think meant she was emotional. You truly are the precious ones, she said. The stories were all true. What stories? Jack asked. Lyra tilted her head. Ancient stories say humans are the guardians of life itself. They say your species was put in the universe to save others. Most do not believe these stories anymore. But I do. Jack looked at the crystal in her hands. Tomorrow, he said. I need tonight to think. Lyra nodded and headed toward the door. Thank you for listening, she said. Most would have called security by now. After she left, Jack sat on his bed, staring at the wall. 20 million aliens were counting on him, and they did not even know he existed. Tomorrow, he would either be a hero or a fool. But he already knew what his choice would be. Jack could not sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about 20 million Zalarians turning to stone. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the frozen faces from the hologram. He saw families torn apart by disease. He saw children reaching for parents who could not move. At 3 a.m, Jack got up and went to his computer. He searched for information about Zalarians. Most of the data was about trade agreements and cultural exchanges. But he found one old article about a human scientist named Lisa Carter. She had worked on biological research and had indeed been part of a diplomatic mission 300 years ago. The article mentioned her interest in comparing human and alien biology. Everything Lyra said seemed to be true, but doubt still nagged at Jack. What if this was a trap? What if touching the crystal would kill him? What if Lyra was lying about everything? Jack thought about his life on the space station. He fixed ships. He ate meals alone. He had no family to visit. He was not special or important, but maybe that was about to change. Maybe for once he could do something that mattered. When morning came, Jack was exhausted but determined. He sent a message to Bill saying he was sick and would miss work. Then he waited by noon. Lyra had not appeared. Jack began to worry that she had found someone else or given up. At 2 in the afternoon, his door chimed. Jack opened it to find Lyra standing there. She looked tired too. Her blue skin seemed duller and her silver hair hung limp instead of floating. "Are you sick?" Jack asked. "No," she said. "But I feel my people's pain. Every hour more turned to stone. I can sense it, even from here." Jack stepped aside to let her in. "You can sense them from this far. Away Zolarians are connected," Lyra explained. "We share a weak psychic bond. I cannot read minds, but I can feel when many of my people are suffering." Jack took a deep breath. "I have decided," he said. "I will help you, Lyras." Large eyes grew even wider. She made the whistling humming sound and dropped to her knees. "Thank you," she said with tears flowing down her blue cheeks. "Thank you. Thank you, thank you." Jack helped her stand up. "When do we do this?" he asked. "Now, if you are ready," Lyra said. "Every moment matters." She pulled out the crystal again and set it on Jack's desk. It caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. Lyra also pulled out several other devices and arranged them around the crystal. "These will monitor the activation," she explained. "They will record everything for our scientists to study." Jack sat in his chair facing the crystal. "What exactly do I do?" "Touch the crystal with both hands," Lyra instructed. "Close your eyes and think about healing. Think about life growing and spreading. Think about the disease breaking apart and the Zolarians becoming free." "That sounds very mystical," Jack said. "I know it seems strange," Lyra admitted. "But human consciousness affects your cellular energy. Your thoughts literally shape the power that flows through you." Jack reached toward the crystal, then stopped. "What if something goes wrong?" Lyra placed her 6-fingered hand on his shoulder. "I will be here," she said. "If anything seems dangerous, I will pull you away." "But Jack, I have studied this for years. I would not ask if I was not certain you would be safe." Jack nodded and placed both hands on the crystal. The moment his skin touched the smooth surface, he felt electricity run up his arms. It did not hurt, but it was surprising. The crystal began to glow with soft white light. "Close your eyes," Lyra whispered. "Focus on healing." Jack closed his eyes and tried to think about healing. He imagined the frozen Zolarians breaking free from stone. He imagined them moving and breathing again. He imagined families reuniting and children playing. He imagined cities coming back to life. The warmth in his arms spread to his chest, then throughout his whole body. He felt like he was floating in warm water. The glow from the crystal grew brighter. Even through his closed eyelids, he heard Lyra making excited sounds, but her voice seemed far away. Then something strange happened. Jack felt connected to something vast. He could sense millions of lights in darkness. Each light was a life frozen, in stone waiting to be freed. He reached out with his mind toward those lights, pouring energy into them. The lights began to pulse, then shine brighter. Jack felt his energy flowing out, but just as Lyra had said, more energy immediately replaced it. He was not a battery being drained, he was a conduit for something infinite. The crystal pulsed 3 times with brilliant flashes. Then the light faded. Jack opened his eyes and pulled his hands back. He expected to feel exhausted, but instead he felt energized, like he had just woken from the best sleep of his life. Lyra was crying openly now while checking her devices. "It worked," she said over and over. "It worked. It worked. It worked." She showed Jack one of the devices. It displayed a star map with Zalara highlighted signals were already being sent to her home world. The cure was activated and ready to be distributed. How long until your people are healed? Jack asked. The cure works fast, Lyra said. Within hours the stone will begin to crack. Within a day they will be free. She carefully picked up the crystal, which now glowed with a steady inner light, and placed it in a protective case. This will be rushed to Zalara immediately, she said. Our fastest ship is waiting. Jack watched her prepare to leave. Wait, he said. Will I see you again? Lyra turned back to him and smiled. When my people are healed, I will return. She promised. I will bring others who want to thank you. You may have refused payment, but you cannot refuse gratitude. After she left, Jack sat alone in his quarters. He had just saved 20 million lives, but no one on the station would ever know. He was still just Jack Miller, the mechanic. But now he knew the truth about humans. They were not weak or primitive. They were healers. They were helpers. They were the ones other species turned to when hope was lost. 3 days later, Jack was back at work fixing a cargo ship when Bill tapped his shoulder. Someone is here to see you, Bill said with a strange expression. Jack looked up to see Lyra standing in the repair dock. But she was not alone. Behind her stood dozens of Zalarians, all with blue skin and silver hair. They were smiling and healthy, and very much not made of stone. Lyra stepped forward. This is only a small group. She said millions more wanted to come, but the station could not hold them all. The Zalarians began to sing. It was unlike any music Jack had ever heard. Their voices harmonized in ways that made his chest vibrate with emotion. The other workers stopped to listen, and soon a crowd gathered. When the song ended, Lyra handed Jack a small device. This is a citizenship beacon, she said. You are now an honorary citizen of Zalara. You will always have a home with us. Jack looked at the beacon, then at the grateful faces around him. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what it meant to be human. It was not about being the strongest or the smartest. It was about being the one who says yes when others need help, and that was the most powerful thing in the universe. 2 weeks had passed since the Zalarians visited the space station to thank Jack. Life had returned to normal, and Jack was back to fixing ships and eating alone in the mess hall. Most people on the station had already forgotten about the singing, blue aliens, but Jack noticed things were different now. Other aliens looked at him longer when he passed them in the corridors. Some whispered to each other in languages he did not understand. A few even bowed slightly when they thought he was not looking. One morning, Jack arrived at the repair dock to find a crowd gathered around his work area. 3 different alien species stood waiting for him. A tall creature covered in green scales stepped forward. First, you are Jack Miller, the human who saved the Zalarians, the creature asked. Its voice sounded like grinding rocks. Jack felt uncomfortable with all the attention. Yes, that was me, he said. The scaled creature pulled out a black crystal similar to the one Lyra had brought. My people are the Kronari. We also have a sickness. Not disease, but poison in our atmosphere from ancient wars. Our children cannot breathe without pain. Before Jack could respond, a small furry alien pushed forward. We are the Nethri. This one squeaked. Our sun is dying and only human energy can restart the fusion core. Then a third alien made of what looked like living metal spoke. Our memories are fading. We lose ourselves more each day. Only human neural patterns can restore our data. Banks. Jack held up his hands, feeling overwhelmed. Wait, 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 he said. I am just one person. I cannot save everyone. More aliens began arriving at the repair dock, each with their own crisis, each claiming that humans were the only solution. Bill stood beside Jack, looking shocked. What is happening? Bill whispered. I do not know, Jack replied, but I think word has spread about what I did. Within an hour, the repair dock was so crowded that security had to intervene. Captain Rogers, the human in charge of the station, pushed through the crowd to reach Jack Miller. We need to talk. the captain said privately. "Follow me." They went to the captain's office, leaving the crowd of desperate aliens behind. Captain Rogers was an older woman with gray hair and tired eyes. "Want to explain? What is going on?" she asked. Jack told her everything about Lyra, the disease, the crystal, and the activation. The captain listened without interrupting. When Jack finished, she leaned back in her chair. "So aliens think humans are miracle workers," she said. Jack nodded. "It seems like it, but Captain, I cannot help them all. Even if I wanted to, I am just one person." The captain stood and looked out her window at the stars. "This changes everything," she said. "If what you are saying is true, then humans are about to become the most valuable species in the galaxy. Is that a good thing?" Jack asked. The captain turned back to him. "That depends on how we handle it." Over the next few days, the situation grew worse. Ships arrived from distant systems, all carrying aliens, seeking human help. The station became overcrowded. The mess hall ran out of food. The air recyclers struggled to keep up. Jack tried to help a few of the most desperate cases. He touched a chronary crystal that helped clean their poison. He placed his hand on a Nithri-solar collector that boosted their dying sun. But for every alien he helped, 10 more arrived. Then something frightening happened. A massive warship appeared outside the station. It belonged to the Valdari Empire, one of the most powerful and aggressive species in known space. The Valdari demanded that Jack come aboard their ship. Captain Rogers refused, but the Valdari threatened to destroy the station if they did not get what they wanted. They claimed their emperor was dying and only human life force could save him. Jack volunteered to go despite the captain's protests. He could not let the station be destroyed because of him. As he prepared to leave, Lyra suddenly appeared. She had returned to the station without anyone noticing. "You cannot go with them," she said urgently. "The Valdari do not want healing. They want to capture you and use you as a weapon." "What do you mean?" Jack asked. She pulled him aside and spoke quietly. "My people have been monitoring communications across the galaxy. The Valdari have learned that human energy can do more than heal. It can also destroy. They want to turn you into a living weapon aimed at their enemies." Jack felt sick. The thought of his energy being used to hurt others was horrible. "But if I do not go, they will destroy the station." "There is another way," Lyra said. "We have been working on something since you saved us. Look," she showed him a small device that looked like a watch. "Our scientists studied the recordings from when you activated our cure. We learned how human energy works. We cannot replicate it, but we can amplify it." Jack did not understand. "What does that mean?" "It means that with this device, one human can share their energy with many others at once." Lyra explained. "Instead of you helping one species at a time, you could help hundreds simultaneously. But would that not drain me completely?" Jack asked. "No, because the device also accelerates your regeneration," Lyra said. "You would feel tired, but you would recover in minutes instead of instantly." Captain Rogers had been listening. She stepped forward. "This could solve everything," she said. "We could establish humanitarian centers where humans volunteer to help other species in controlled, safe environments. The Valdari will not accept that." Jack said. "They want me now. Then we fight." The captain said. She activated the station's communication system. "Attention all vessels, this is Captain Rogers' space station. Echo 7 is now under the protection of the Galactic Human Alliance. Any act of aggression will be met with full retaliation." Jack had never heard of the Galactic Human Alliance, and he was pretty sure the captain just made it up. But her bluff worked. The Valdari ship powered down its weapons. The Valdari commander appeared. "On the view screen, you cannot protect him forever," the commander snarled. "Humans are too valuable to remain free. We shall see about that," Captain Rogers replied and cut the transmission. She turned to Jack and Lyra. "We need to move fast," she said. "If humans really have this ability, then everything is about to change. We need to organize before other species try to exploit us." Lyra nodded and handed the device to Jack. "This is just the beginning," she said. "Your people are about to discover their true purpose in the universe." Jack looked at the device on his wrist, then at the crowd of aliens still waiting outside. He realized his simple life as a mechanic was over. But maybe that was okay. Maybe it was time for humans to step up and become what the galaxy needed them to be: healers, protectors, and hope-bringers. The age of humanity had truly begun. Tom Grant leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "Change how the galaxy sees humans," he repeated. "Tell me more." Jack explained everything about the Zalarian disease, the activation crystal, and how human energy could heal other species. Tom listened, with growing interest, especially when Jack mentioned that more species had been seeking human help. "So you are saying humans are like walking medical miracles?" Tom said. "Something like that," Jack replied. "But right now 12 Zalarians need our help, and I need a pilot brave enough to get me to Nexus." 5. Tom was quiet for a moment, then grinned. "You know what? I have been flying cargo for 15 years and I am bored out of my mind. This sounds like an adventure worth having." Captain Rogers helped them prepare for the journey. She gave them emergency supplies, fake identification codes, and a communication device that could reach the station from deep space. "Be careful," she warned. "The collectors are not violent, but they do not like visitors. They see themselves as preservers of knowledge and they take what they want." 3 hours later, Jack and Tom were aboard Tom's ship, the Wanderer. It was an old cargo vessel that had seen better days. The walls were rusty and the engine made concerning noises, but Tom assured Jack it was faster than it looked. The journey to Nexus 5 took 3 days. During that time, Tom taught Jack about the collectors. They were an ancient species that had been gathering knowledge for thousands of years. Their planet was supposed to be a massive library containing information about every species in the galaxy. But they do not ask permission, Tom explained. If they want to study something, they take it. They probably have specimens from hundreds of species. "Locked away, that sounds terrible," Jack said. Tom shrugged. "To them it is preservation. They believe they are saving knowledge before species go extinct or evolve beyond recognition." On the 3rd day, Nexus 5 appeared on their screens. It was a gray planet covered in metal structures that looked like enormous filing cabinets. Ships from various species orbited the planet, but none seemed to be landing. "They do not allow visitors," Tom said. "We will have to sneak in." "How do we do that?" Jack asked. Tom smiled and pressed several buttons on his console. "Watch and learn," he said. The Wanderer suddenly went dark. All lights turned off and the engine went silent. They were drifting like space debris. Tom had plotted a course that would take them through the planet's trash disposal area. "Collectors dump their waste here," Tom whispered, even though no one could hear them in space. "They never check it because who would be crazy enough to fly through garbage?" The ship shook as pieces of alien trash bounced off the hull. Jack held on tight as they descended through clouds of discarded metal and organic waste. The smell was horrible even through the ship's filters. After an hour of nauseating descent, they broke through and found themselves in a canyon of trash. Tom powered the ship back on and flew low between mountains of garbage until they found a flat area to land. "Welcome to Nexus 5. Tom said. "Try not to breathe too deep." They put on breathing masks and exited the ship. The sky above was brown from pollution and the ground was covered in slimy waste. Jack checked the coordinates from Lyra's message. The facility where they are held is 5 kilometers north. Jack said. Tom pulled out 2 hoverbikes from his ship's cargo hold. "These will get us there faster," he said, "but stay low. The collectors have scanning drones everywhere." They rode through the wasteland, avoiding patrols of floating mechanical eyes. The collectors themselves were nowhere to be seen. After an hour, they reached a massive, black building with no windows or visible doors. "How do we get in?" Jack asked. Tom examined the structure and found a waste disposal vent. "These beings love their knowledge, but they still produce trash," he said. "We can crawl through here." The vent was tight and dark. Jack had to fight his fear of closed spaces as they crawled through the metal tunnel. Strange liquids dripped on them and the smell made them gag even through their masks. After what felt like hours, they emerged in a storage room, filled with empty specimen containers. Tom checked his scanner and pointed down a hallway. "Life signs that way," he said. "Multiple species, including Zalarians." They crept through sterile white corridors that reminded Jack of a hospital. Everything was too clean and too quiet. Their footsteps echoed despite their efforts to walk softly. Then they heard voices. Not spoken words, but a strange buzzing that formed patterns. Jack peeked around a corner and saw his first collector. It was 7 feet tall and looked like a mixture between an insect and a machine. Its body was covered in black chitin armor, and its head had multiple eyes that moved independently. 6 arms extended from its torso, each ending in different tools. Tom pulled Jack back and whispered, "That is a collector guardian. They are studying something in that room." Jack looked again, and his heart jumped. Through a clear wall, he could see Lyra and 11 other Zolarians. They were in individual cells being scanned by red lasers. Lyra looked weak and her blue skin had lost its shimmer. "We need a distraction," Jack whispered. Tom smiled and pulled out a small device from his pocket. "Noisemaker," he said. "I use it to scare away space rats." "Watch this." He threw the device down the opposite hallway. It started shrieking and flashing lights. The collector guardian immediately rushed toward the sound, moving faster than something that size should. Jack ran to the clear wall and found a control panel. He pressed buttons randomly until the wall began to dissolve. The Zolarians looked up in surprise and Lyra gasped when she saw him. "Jack, you came," she said weakly. "Of course I came," Jack replied. "Now we need to move fast." The 12 Zolarians stumbled out of their cells and Jack helped support Lyra, who could barely walk. Tom kept watch as they moved back toward the vent. "Wait," Lyra said. "They took something from us." "What did they take?" Jack asked. She pointed to a room across the hall. "Our memory stones," she said. "They contain the history of our people. We cannot leave without them." Jack looked at Tom, who shook his head. "We do not have time," he said. "That guardian will be back any second." Jack made a decision. "Get them to the ship," he told Tom. "I will get the stones," before Tom could protest. Jack ran to the other room. Inside, he found dozens of glowing crystals on shelves. Each one pulsed with different colors. He grabbed all the purple ones, hoping they belonged to the Zolarians. A buzzing voice behind him made him freeze. "You are human, it," said. Jack turned to see a collector standing in the doorway. This one was larger than the Guardian, and its multiple eyes all focused on Jack. "You are the one who saved the Zolarians," the collector said. "We have been hoping you would come." Jack backed against the shelf. "Why capture them?" he asked. "Why not just ask for my help?" The collector tilted its head, a gesture that looked strange with its insect features. "Asking implies the option to refuse it," said. "We cannot risk refusal when knowledge is at stake." "That is wrong," Jack said. "You cannot just take what you want." The collector moved closer, its arms reaching out. "We preserve," it said. "We protect. Without us, countless species would be forgotten." "Maybe," Jack said. "But you also cause pain. You hurt those you claim to preserve." The creature paused as if considering this. "We do not understand pain as you do," it admitted. "But we understand value. And you human are the most valuable specimen we have ever encountered." Jack felt the crystals in his hands grow warm. He looked down to see them glowing brighter. One of them projected an image of Zolarian history, showing their civilization rising from primitive tribes to space travelers. "These memories are not yours to keep," Jack said. "They belong to the Zolarians." The collector buzzed loudly. "Everything belongs to the archive," it said. "Nothing is truly owned, only temporarily held." Then Jack had an idea. "You want to understand human energy?" he said. "Yes," the collector said eagerly. "Your species holds power. We cannot comprehend. I will show you," Jack said. "But only if you let us all leave safely." The collector considered this, then nodded. "Show us," it said.